Gauteng Emergency Medical Services is gearing up for the festive season by hosting its annual readiness program. This includes the ability to deal with a possible surge in COVID-19 infections. Well, ENCA's Nqobile Madlala is following that story and joins us now to give us a sense of what the preparations look like. Nqobile, how do you even prepare if you are the Gauteng Emergency Medical Services for a situation that is partly predictable in that, you have gotten a sense over the years what are the incidents that you sort of respond to regularly, but at the same time, it's also unpredictable in terms of we don't know at this point what it will be looking like in terms of emergency calls and hospitalizations around COVID-19. What are the authorities telling you about preparing for those possibilities?
Well, Celeste, it's a rock and a hard place, definitely for Gauteng at this point, as they're trying to strategize as well in terms of understanding how the wave might work or which way they might sway. But we have heard from the authorities that they're saying that one of the hotspots that they have already identified is Soweto. Now, we do understand that in the Soweto, in the south, they're saying that there's quite a number of traffic that goes through into Gauteng, but most people will go to Soweto. So they have spoken about the fact that at this point, even in the calls that they have received, saying that roughly a year they receive over 700,000 calls from people in Gauteng, and in this case 50% comes from Soweto. So at this point, they are strategically trying to understand how they're going to use some of this fleet that is new to the emergency to ensure that it is on the ground to cover that 50% as well that is being seen having come from Soweto. We do know, Tulas, that there's about 220 new fleets that has already been launched in this case. We know that 20 of that also has ICU beds as well as neonatal transfer, ICU transfer. We understand that this works, of course, so that they are able to transfer people from one hospital to the next, but also those people that are unable or struggling to breathe. But I want to bring in one of the people that are in the front line, in a sense that you receive those calls and they come directly to you. So Trevor Dlamini, speak to us about how you prepare yourself, knowing that you have to speak to these families that urgently need your call and you need to dispatch the ambulance ASAP.
I think, thank you for giving me this opportunity. On an everyday basis, one has to wake up knowing very well that you applied for this job. You wanted to save lives. You wanted to reach for people. You wanted to give people a piece of you. So on preparation, on basically every day, you wake up knowing that you have to go and do what you do best. So we wake up in the morning, we just go and know that there are people that need us and there are people that are counting on us.
All right. But then now that you know that a lot of people call in total panic, they need assistance, how do you dispatch the ambulance? And how does it make you feel having to deal with that?
Okay, how we dispatch the ambulance, it depends on the call volume that comes on a normal day. So you've mentioned that the stats and the numbers that usually we face. Soweto being the heart of mostly the areas that are very busy. So what we usually do, or what I usually do as an individual, is to work on the resources that we are given and dispatch the ambulances to each and every individual calls that I'm able to. We've got priority 1, priority 2, priority 3s. So we usually prioritize, and then other outstanding calls are not dispatch calls. I, as an agent, have to go back to those calls and make sure that I comfort the callers to tell them that, of course, the ambulance is going to come after it's done with other emergencies.
And I mean, understanding that this is the festive season, there's a fourth wave, how is it going? Are you concerned at all that you'll have to work very long hours?
Yes, I think as a dispatcher, you become like a parent to the ambulance personnel on the ground, because you need to make sure that you get the relevant and you dispatch them to the right information. When they get to the scene, they are able to get it proper. So I think as a dispatcher, I myself have to make sure that I interact with the community itself and only then be able to liaise the message with the ambulance being dispatched. I, for one, I'm not worried much because we are handling what we can and at the best at our abilities.
All right. Thank you very much. Chair Dlamini there. He is in the dispatch to us. He's telling us that he says he's not that worried because they are making sure that they handle it the best that they can. But he's saying something very important there, that for the people that call in, you sort of need to be a parent to the ambulance. So you need to know the whereabouts, where they are, and also to communicate between the families, of course, and the ambulance. But of course, this is part of the new fleets that he also will be managing, that 220 fleets that has been introduced to the Gauteng EMS. Of course, we do know that this is part of the 294 million rand that was, of course, used to boost the EMS. And this is part of that fleet that he's going to be also in the front line speaking to the ambulances in the fourth wave.
All right, thank you for that. ENCA's Nqobile Madlala tracking on that story. 220 new vehicles to be part of the fleet for Gauteng Emergency Medical Services. That's nothing to scoff at. It is quite a good development. More of that, please. That's ENCA's Nqobile Madlala there reporting on that. Hopefully then, this is complemented by improvements in as far as the city-based emergency services, such as fire, for example. In Johannesburg, the fire services is a joke, really. It is completely a joke. So hopefully that improves, as well as the hospitals themselves. Charlotte Maxeke needs to really return to full service following that fire that happened earlier on in the year. Let's move